My name is Melissa Chaudhry, and I'm running for Congress in Washington's 9th District. I come before you as a grassroots candidate fully supported by the people. Unlike our incumbent, over 95% of whose campaign funding is provided by special interests who profit from war and violence at our expense. You can check his campaign contributions and mine at opensecrets.org. All of my campaign contributions come from individuals, and that's in keeping with my principles. I believe in government of, by, and for the people, not the corporations or foreign interests. I bring personal and professional experience in climate action on several continents, as well as addiction treatment, affordable housing, sustainable agriculture, immigrant support, and real economic development and community empowerment, especially for marginalized communities. I'm not a career politician. I'm a hardworking American dedicated to reckoning with our legacy of racism and imperial violence and doing everything I can to form a more perfect union and help America become the nation we always aspired to be. My mission is to help America grow past discrimination at home and dangerous and outdated hegemony abroad into a thriving, inclusive democracy that participates responsibly as one member of a peaceful, multipolar world. As a Navy daughter, wife of a disabled Army veteran, mother in a BIPOC family, and lifelong activist for peace and prosperity, I understand the costs of war, and I will fight for peace, an end to genocide and apartheid on our dime, and respect for human rights at home and abroad. On climate change, I'm an urgent optimist with extensive frontline experience on 3 continents. On immigration, I champion a fair, welcoming, and dignified process that keeps families together, strengthens America, and supports economic success for everyone. I believe in reparations and in making sure that the Black community in particular is invested in a way that compensates for generations, in fact centuries, of exploitation and disempowerment. On constitutional rights, I am fully in support of our fundamental freedoms, including speech and assembly, unlike our incumbent, who has been formally condemned and censured by the 43rd LD for his appalling criticism of these freedoms.
And now we have our next candidate is Miss Melissa Chaudhry. Melissa Chaudhry, excuse me. And she is in competition with Adam Smith for District 9, or House of Representatives. And I am going to have Melissa Chaudhry give an opening statement.
Good evening. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and I'd like to take a few moments to say thank you to the Kent Black Action Commission, both for the invitation and for all of the impressive work that you already do. I've been following your work with Juneteenth and with the action days that you host at the Capitol, and it's incredibly important to uplift and organize the voices and the political engagement of the Black community. So thank you for the work that you do. My name is Melissa Chaudhry, and I'm a candidate for Congress here in Washington's 9th Congressional District. We are right in the heart of that district here, Mercer Island, Bellevue, South Seattle, all the way down to Federal Way, about 800,000 people. In this district, we have an extremely unusual demographic breakdown. We are over 60% people of color, and over 30% of the folks here were born abroad. So we have an opportunity to uplift the voices of those who are historically marginalized, and yet who have the greatest to contribute to the future of America. I say that with a complete wholeheartedness because believing in liberty and justice for all is fundamental to who we are as Americans, and it doesn't come with an asterisk attached. That's the reason I got into politics, and it took me a long time to discover that this is where I wanted to go. When I was a child, my father was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I saw the U.S. military being used for things that violated liberty and justice for all. And I looked around in my own home communities, and I saw the wealth inequality and the incarceration patterns and the racism that also violated the fundamental principles of liberty and justice for all that I was told my country stood for. So figuring out how to reckon with that discrepancy and how to be an American with integrity has been the journey of my life. I am not a career politician. I have lived and worked on several continents, primarily on grassroots economic empowerment, often but not always connected to climate resilience. I've also done frontline work in the nonprofit space here in affordable housing, in making sure that job empowerment is available to folks and jobs training, and in LGBTQ and immigrant support. And I have been very proud to be called a co-conspirator by some of my Black friends growing up. So from here, moving forward, running for Congress to me is about restoring American principle and American integrity and the rule of law to this country. And it is about making sure that the future that we create together is better than the past we have coming from. We must reckon with our legacy of racism and imperial violence and militarism, and we must do that in a way that honors and uplifts the fundamental principles of America and the integrity that this country always should have had. We can be a thriving, prosperous, inclusive, multiracial democracy in a vibrant and peaceful multipolar world, but we have to change course. We need fresh thinking in Congress. We need people who are coming from the grassroots, who are not supported in their campaigns by the big PACs or by foreign interests or by the war machine, all of which our incumbent currently is. And so I am offering to serve this district as the first female congressperson elected from it, and the first from a BIPOC family who understands racism and discrimination, not as much in my own life, but very much in the family that I am in. So that's who I am. I am grateful for the chance to be here, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. The first question I have is, if elected, what are your top 3 priorities for the people of District 9 as you being their representative?
3 things: discrimination, housing, and climate change. The stranger endorsed me both in the primary and the general election in great part for my housing policy. They consider that I have a very strong and robust approach to that. I'd like to acknowledge that our incumbent has done some great work on housing, which I would like to carry forward. But we need much more affordable housing in this district, and we need to make sure that the affordable housing we have stays affordable and is protected from the increasing pressures of rising prices that drive folks out. Folks who have paid off their mortgages need to be able to stay there. Folks who haven't been able to access a mortgage need support to get into it. And we need federal funding to be going not just to support homeownership, which it already is, but to be going to subsidize rent support and public housing in a very robust and accessible way. I also believe in community land trusts, which were originated in the Black community in the South as a way to protect the land that the community owned from predatory pressures. So, discrimination is another thing that I would tackle head on. I see that in our immigration system. I see that in the way that we have structural racism here at home and have since almost time immemorial, have had for a few centuries. And we need to make sure that we dismantle that as deeply as possible, that we invest in reparations, and that we invest in small business support to make sure that all of the entrepreneurial energy that is present in all of these marginalized communities, particularly yours, has as much opportunity and support as possible to go ahead and flourish. Number 3, I am a signatory to the Climate Champion, the Green New Deal program, so I will be supporting all of the Green New Deal legislation that is currently on offer on the table. That will make sure that we invest in strengthening our communities in a way that reduces our risks of climate disaster affecting us directly, and invests in entrepreneurship and in making sure that we build a robust economic future as well as a just and equitable and resilient future as we are dealing with more and more and more floods, fires, and crises of various kinds, which may not affect as much here, but certainly affect the country and will affect the supply chains that are also impacting us. I believe that responding to climate change should be primarily an entrepreneurial endeavor, and that the federal government should be investing in that, especially in a proactively reparations-oriented way.
Thank you for that. In that answer, you mentioned investing in reparations as one of the 3 things in relation to discrimination. Can you tell us more about how you see that?
Most of the wealth of this country is derived from 2 sources: stolen land and stolen labor. And that stolen labor has been from the Black community for centuries, and still is. We see that in wage gaps. We see that in other ways that this manifests. And we see it in the massive wealth gap between white families and Black families, having a lot to do with the racism during the GI Bill era some decades ago, a couple generations ago now, where white families could buy into the housing market at very low prices and have been able to just have those assets accrue over a couple generations now, and Black families were excluded at the very beginning, and so now we're still dealing with those consequences, let alone going back to slavery. The source of wealth in this country has has largely been on the backs of black people. And that deserves direct, clear reparations in a number of different forms. For some, investing in a small business opportunity is going to be a way that reparations will work. For others, it should be direct cash assistance. For others, it should be land. I support having multiple options available for how to manifest reparations based on individual preferences, but I think it needs to happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think so far you have expressed some interest in that word. So, could you expand on that a little bit, if you would, please?
Sure. I'm an unusual white person, as you might notice by the fact that I wear a hijab now. But when I was in high school, I was a founding member of our high school's Diversity Alliance. That was the name for our DEI club, basically. I was the only white kid, and yet I was the one who my peers selected to be our PR official, which surprised me, no doubt. But I did my best to live up to that trust. And that is something that I would like to carry forward. I have always been more comfortable in spaces where I am in the racial minority. That's been true whether I've been working in Ghana, in West Africa, or in Pakistan, or Indonesia, or Central America, all of which are places I've worked. And it's true when I am in my mosque as well. From a structural standpoint, I was very happy to recently be with the Washington Women's Foundation at their annual convening, and they held a whole panel on DEI in education with some truly outstanding speakers, making the point that investing in DEI in education in particular is a fundamental piece of functional reparations, right? Making sure that we affirmatively, proactively reach out to communities that have been historically marginalized, mistreated, abused, exploited, and bring them in and give them that necessary lift to come up to the position of being able to participate fully and equally in a fair, free, and opportunity-rich society. So I believe in this as a fundamental piece of what America is and should be, and it's something that I wholeheartedly support.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for that answer. Here's the next question. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is capable of being our next president of the United States?
100%.
Thank you. Sorry. Are there any questions for anyone out in the audience right now? Yes.
I think this is my first time meeting you. And you get a good introduction. You need to go. Now, you talked about racism, and you talked about different things in that area. If you elect to Congress, I'd like to know, would you vote for the John Lewis Act?
Is it more to the question, or should I answer?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is one that's high on my priority list. I was very honored to be able to hear him speak live when I was about 16, and we traveled to D.C. for Obama's inauguration, which was the highlight of my teen years, actually. And he spoke passionately about the golden thread of democracy and how we could be closer to it or further from it, but it always shone with promise in our lives. And that speech of his was very influential for me. And I tried to track down a transcript of it later on, and was told that no, he speaks off the cuff. So I would be honored to vote in support of this.
Thank you. See, that was an easy one for you.
That's fine.
See, I'm familiar with John Lewis. I marched with him.
Oh, wonderful.
And when I talks about him, well, let me move on. I get the emotion.
It's okay, yeah.
Now, the next question, women's right to make decisions for their own body. I can't understand how a government can make a decision for what you do with your own health. I don't understand that. I tell people this, a lot of them, especially men. How can you tell a woman what to do with her body? You can't even get pregnant. Would you vote for the women's right to vote, to make the decision for themselves?
Absolutely, I would. We need to protect the sovereignty of a human being, period, and that includes a woman's right to make any health care decision that she needs. I wish we lived in a perfect world where every pregnancy was wanted and intentional and consensual. We do not. And therefore, as a consequence, we need to make sure that every child is a wanted child and that every mother wants to be a mother. I am a mother by choice, delighted choice. And it's massive work, and it's life-changing, and it's challenging. And that needs to be something that's undertaken voluntarily or not at all.
I have one more. Books in school, Black history book being taken out of school. You elected, would you put in a bill to put them back in school?
Yes, and I hope that you would help me draft that bill. But it was important for me as a child to read things like Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and other books that very clearly and compellingly documented and created memorable and emotional stories around the experience of Black people in this country, around Black history, around slavery. Having that taken out of the environment, the milieu that's available to young people, is an incredible disservice to the future of this country. I would argue, at least on a moral level, it is criminal. It also violates freedom of speech and a number of other issues that we could get into on the legal standpoint, but simply from the shaping of the future of the country that we are and we want to be, we need this material there. So yes, I would support that.
Now this is the last one. This is the last one. I'm an old man now. Soon will be 88.
I would put you day over 60.
And I'm on Social Security and Medicare. It seems to me like you get a lot of people in Congress now who wants to deal with that by cutting it. We can't live off of what we get now.
I know.
Would you fight for the seniors?
Absolutely. You have invested your life, and you have invested your life's work in this country. This country is obliged, fundamentally, to make sure that you are okay and that you are well taken care of. Wages have stagnated for the last 50 years. Medicare and Social Security have also stagnated, even as the cost of groceries and the cost of rent and housing and everything else has gone up. That's not okay. That means that we are leaving behind multiple generations of Americans who have less opportunity, less capacity, a lower standard of living than they should and than we used to. So yes, I will support seniors' rights and seniors' economic empowerment and just bare subsistence at a bare minimum, but it should be a dignified level of subsistence, and this shouldn't even be a question. Not from you on the political stage.
Thank you for your answer my question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that leads us to a closing statement, if you choose to say any more.
It would be an honor to represent you in Congress. And I say that with a whole heart. And I don't talk about this as I'm aspiring to power, I'm seeking a seat, I want, any of the grandeur that might go along with it. That's not what this is about. This is about making sure that voices and values that have been excluded and marginalized or tokenized actually get center stage. If I get to Congress, I want to be your voice. I want to be our voice. And I want to be the voice of American principle and America's future. We have to have our future be better than our past. And right now we have situations that are just embedded in Congress that make sure that only the war machine is served and that that makes sure that white supremacy is being served. And that's not okay with me as an American or as a human being. So I would like to work together with you, and I would like to carry forward the good work that's already been done for this district. But I want to do it in a way that's accountable to the people. Let me emphasize again that all of my campaign contributions come from individuals. I don't have anything coming from foreign interests, unlike our incumbent. I don't have anything coming from the war machine or corporate PACs, unlike our incumbent. And so I'm here as someone who aspires to be a sister in humanity and to make sure that we have an American future and a future for this district that is better than any of us thought possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, good evening again, everybody. Thank you so much for your time and your patience to listen and learn. Thank you so much to those who came out for the filming, and thank you for those who were not able to be here regarding the candidates. Thank them for sending their videos with answers to the questions so we can upload those questions for the virtual production. That should be happening soon. Stay tuned on our website, www.kentblackactioncommission.org, and all other social media platforms, and that's Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So we had a great turnout for this forum this year. Great support from community members, great support from our media and marketing team. So all in all, it was a great time today. We look forward to continuing our efforts towards civic engagement. So stay tuned to the works of KBAC. We're on the move now, and things are going to be really, really good. So thank you so much for coming and listening with your family, your friends, and thanks again to all of the candidates, whether they're incumbents or whatever the case may be. They graced us with their time, their presence, and their opportunity to speak to the community. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon. This is KBAC.